G'day. Have you ever had times when you've actually just have to thought about your job or in your business and say, should I really be here? Has events eventuated now that currently mean that I should be moving on? And how do you address that? That's what I'm going to talk about today, and to let you know that it's normal and how to actually address it and tips you can do with it. I'll give you the real life example of what's happened to me. I have previously worked with a supplier over several years now, and they've always done really good work for me. And the person who I used to have the contract with moved on. That's okay, stuff happens. And I got a letter from the big boss sort of saying, okay, this person's gone and we're going to change a few things and we're still going to take care of you. And I had this funny feeling thinking, interesting. Let's not be too harsh on this person. I thought, we'll give them a go. We'll stay with them. They've taken good care of us for the last couple of years. But I still had that little nagging feeling saying, maybe it's time to change suppliers. I don't know if it was just instinct or the Holy Spirit letting me know that, be aware, be savvy, be discerning. Yeah, ignored those. Yeah, it's not a good story here. And then about 3 weeks ago, I got a call from the state government saying, hey, Peter, you're in breach of a law here. I thought, ooh, that's not my normal style. And they said, well, actually, it isn't your fault. What happened is your supplier hasn't done what they were supposed to do. Even though you paid them for it, they haven't lodged a particular report. And this is a really important report for me in my industry. I thought, okay. So for the next 3 weeks, I've been trying to get it sorted out, and it's just getting harder and harder and harder. Thankfully that the government is realistic, because they brought it to my attention, and there's obviously a lot of people like me been stuffed up by this supplier. And the supplier, unfortunately, has been deregistered by almost every organisation that he's in. So it gives you an indication of what I'm up against. And the government's sort of saying, well, I've got a good track record, and we just need to get this sorted out. But getting it sorted out is really hard. And it got to the stage where I thought, well, I have an understanding that God gives us assignments, and quite often those assignments aren't forever. And not in my case. There's several times in my life when I've been poking along doing something and God sort of tapped me on the shoulder and said, no, I want you going over there and doing that now. And I go, huh? But I'm here doing this and enjoying it and doing good. No, I want you over there. So I've had that a couple of times. I don't know if you've had that same experience. Sometimes events eventuate. I remember I had one of my businesses, I'm a serial entrepreneur. One of my businesses was doing fine, and then it just dried up in the matter of a week. All work just dried up, and I thought, subtle hint from God. I have this understanding with God. When he wants me to change, I ask him for making sure it's not a subtle hint. So I was wondering, is this a subtle hint that, he wants me to move on? So this is a little bit like the story of Daniel. Now, if you are familiar with the book of Daniel, which is in the Old Testament, good, this is what we're going to talk a little bit about. If not, think of this situation. So it was set in the times when the Medes and Persians ruled the Middle East and most of the known world at that time. And there's this guy called Daniel. He was actually an Israeli Jew, and he was about to be promoted to be number 2 in the whole kingdom. This country, this kingdom covered massive amounts, all the way to the Mediterranean, through North Africa, through the Middle East, massive. To get an understanding of what the impact of that is think now if an Israeli Jew will suddenly become number 2 in Iran or Iraq. Whoa, rough territory. And, the pressure on that person must have been immense. Daniel had a lot of pressure on him, so much so that there was a conspiracy to get him killed. And this is where the story of Daniel and the lion's den, you may have heard a bit about it. Now, Daniel was basically told that, tomorrow you're going to get executed because, things haven't worked out your way, and we're going to put you in a pit with lions, and, sorry, I can't do anything about it. Whoa! Makes my problems look pretty small, I thought. And so what does Daniel do? Well, he prayed, and it must have been an awesome prayer. Imagine praying for your life. You've got the faith that God's got it under control. If you're going to die, you're going to die. If you're not going to die, you're not going to die. But, the emotional and psychological political turmoil would have been huge. And I have to admit, I did a prayer like that for probably the last 3 weeks, increasingly so as I worked through. Now, the story with Daniel is they ended up putting him in the pit. God protected him. He made the lions suddenly weren't hungry. They just left him alone for the night, and the next day the king came and picked him out of the pit. Said, "Oh, thank you," because the king didn't actually want to do it. He realised he got set up big time, and when king gets set up big time, he gets pretty revengeful. So all the people, and there's a lot of them who had conspired to kill Daniel, ended up being thrown in the pit with their families. Ooh, it's a little bit harsh, but understandable. And they all died instantly with the lions. So, look, we all love stories with happy endings, and for Daniel it was a happy ending. But we also need to be realistic that it doesn't always work out that way. But back to my scenario, I said, God, is this one of those not so subtle hints that you want me to stop? There's a lot of pressure. It's like I'm on a seesaw right now, not only with this aspect, but when you're on the seesaw and you're on the top and your legs are sort of kicking around and you're not doing anything because the force on the other end, in this case, there's a lot of people just giving me a hard time right now, are just outweighing the ability that I have. And I prayed, I said, God, I really need a miracle. I need some sign from you to let me know that I'm doing what you want me to do. And it came. Yesterday I had a visit with an inspection with a client, and by the night time we had organised a contract for the business. Now that in itself isn't a miracle, but you need to recognise in my industry what is normal is my contracts can take anywhere between 3 years to probably about 3 months. This one was listed a couple of days ago and signed pretty well yesterday. In a couple of days, and it'll hopefully settle in 4 weeks, God willing. That is, to me, enough of an understanding that, keep doing what I'm going to be doing. So, from your point of view, you're going to be normal. You're going to have times when you are challenged. You're going to have times when you're doing really well, and the better you do, the harder the pressure is to keep going. Call it Newton's second law of physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if you're a force 10 gale doing great things, there's going to be a force 10 gale against you. If you're from a Christian point of view, you recognize the better you do and the more you do for God, the more Satan is going to have a go against you. So when those times come and you just feel like, whoa, I need a time out, sit down, spend some quiet time, read the Bible if you're into that, or at minimum, just pray. Just have a talk with God. If you're not used to prayer, and that's fine, just have a conversation. Just say, look, this is what's happening. You know what it is. I don't know what to do. Can you give me a hand? Can you give me a sign? Can you help me out? And I hope that prayer gets answered for you. It always will. And that's just sharing on a Saturday, sitting here in my shirt. That's pretty well what happened last night, and I hope you have success as well. Until next time, take care and God bless. This is Peter from Bundaberg Commercial.